I was inspired by the two-piece that was made with this yellow fabric, and I decided to recreate one for myself. And guys, I love the result on my body. And if you're wondering if it would be a nice fit for you, I would advise that you give it a try. You're plus size or a slim size, this is a perfect fit for you. So if you're ready, then follow me, let me show you how. So this is 3 yards of fabric, that's what I'm using. So what I did was to fold them entirely into two. I'm going to be beginning with the cutting of the pint. So what I did afterwards was to measure the length of the pint. So I'm going to be using the full length of this fabric for my length of the pint. So I went ahead and I'm measuring my crotch length. I am using 13 inches as my crotch length. So this line right now is my crotch length. So on the crotch length, I'm going to be marking 2 inches. Just watch what I'm going to be doing. So I marked 2 inches on the crotch length. So if you're wondering why I am folding it at this point, it is because I want to have a straight fabric on both sides. This one I'm folding, I'm not going to be counting it. So I also marked 2 inches on the waistline as well. So at the top of this fabric, at the top of my pint is the waistline. This arrow right here, this arrow is indicating the waist point. So I'm going to be curving it. This is the crotch length or the crotch line at this point. You can see that I curved it. So afterwards, on this crotch line again, I'm going to be marking my thigh. How wide do you want your thigh or your laps to be? If you want it too big, this is the time you determine how wide or how big and bogus you want it to be. So for me, I used 15. So on the waistline right now, I'm going to be taking my waist measurement. So my waist plus 4 inches is what I did. So I marked 11 inches. Ideally, my waist is 7 inches. So I added extra 4 inches. So I'm going to be connecting from my waist till the thigh that I just marked. So I'm just going to be linking it to the hemline of my pint, meaning to the overall length of my pint. So on the thigh I measured 14 inches. So underneath, which is the hemline, I marked 11 inches. So the width of my pint underneath is going to be 22 once it is done, because I marked 11 inches. So if you're confused as to what I am saying, just look at what I am trying to do. I think looking at it pictorially, you are going to get a little bit of understanding. On the crotch line, I went inwards by half of an inch, so I'm going to blend it in. The reason why I am going out or inward by half of an inch is because the slant lines, it gives your pint a relaxing effect once you wear it at the waist side. So that's the essence of having to slant it by half of an inch. It is optional, but I feel like once I do it, the pint is usually very relaxed. So you can see that I did not have to slant any more thin underneath from the crotch line. I only am cutting out the crotch line, and then that is all. No shaping, nothing. This is how the shape looks like. So after cutting for the front, I had to still fold my fabric again, and then I laid the front on the folded fabric. Then I left at least 1.5 inches outward. So you can see the little line that I slashed outward. So that's the crotch line for the back as well. So I came down from that line by half of an inch. So the back crotch line or crotch length is going to be deeper by half of an inch. So I try to add 1 inch on the crotch length from the waist side down to where the crotch line ends. So I'm just going to link it up to the half of an inch that we measured downward. So if you're wondering why we came down by half of an inch on the crotch length for the back piece, it is because the back side is usually bigger and fuller. So we don't want it to be same measurement, same size with the front. That is why we are adding this extra 1.5 inch that I'm marking right now from the crotch line down to the hemline. The back is usually fuller because of the boards, and then also we are using it to make adjustment for the allowances. I just hope you understand what I'm trying to say. If you don't understand, please just look at what I'm trying to do. So the back and the front piece is ready. So usually the first piece that you always cut when you're making a pint, that first piece is always the front piece of your pint. So, and since they are laid together right now, from the first one, I'm going to come down by half of an inch. Then I'm going to blend it to the edge of the first piece like this, so that the front piece is lower by 1 inch, while the back is higher by 1 inch. Look at how it is. The reason why the front piece has to be lower than the back is because no human being is utterly straight. So lowering it by 1 inch gives it a fitting and it just makes it sit perfectly on your body. The next thing we are going to be doing at this point is to head over and just close all of the sides that need to be closed. So we're going to start with the front part. You can start with the back part. It does not mean anything. So I'm just going to close this part. And then for the back side as well, I am going to do the same thing. I'm going to close it this way. Afterwards, this is what it looks like. This is for the front and the back. I closed here and closed here. This is the front and this is the back. So I am going to lay them on each other like this, and then I'm just going to close it. I'm going to be attaching a pocket to the sides before finally closing it. Then if you're wondering how I'm going to be attaching the pockets, there are videos that I've made about how to attach pockets to a pint, so you can just check that out on my channel. I'm not going to be doing that part in this video so that this video is not so long, but then I have a video up on my channel that I explained every detail about how to attach a pocket to either a gown or a pint, so do well to check it out. So I'm going to be closing it at the sides. I'm going to be closing it at the middle, running from the hem side right up until to the middle part, and then I'm going to be running the stitch down to the second leg this way as well. Make sure to align it properly before heading over to close it up. I will also do for the side as well. Attach the pockets and then close the sides. So this is what it looks like. I'd attached the pockets, I'd closed the both sides, I'd attached a band, a waistband. So this is the waistband that is going to house our elastic band. So from all indication, this is a wide leg pant. You can see how wide it is. But if you feel like my measurement is very small for your size, please go ahead and add more. Just be free, do whatever you want or however you want your pants to look like. So I'm going to be using this elastic just for this purpose, but I'm going to get a longer elastic. So I'll fold it this way and just close it at the both edges, and then I'm just going to put it in between my elastic or my band, the waistband that I created. Then I'm just going to fold it on the edge, flip it over the elastic, and then try as much as you can not to sew exactly on the elastic for now. We're going to sew on the elastic, but it is after this process, after this step. So just take your hand away from where the elastic ends. Your needle is going to be sewing a little bit after the elastic. Remember that you must have made your elastic into something like a loop, into like a round shape. Then you put it inside. Then as you sew, you're going to be stretching your fabric because the elastic is going to compress or pull your fabric together. So as you sew, you stretch your fabric so that it goes around. So once I'm done with attaching the elastic, I'm going to head over to the hem side of it or to the overall length of it. Then I'm just going to close it. So at this point, I'm just trying to confirm the length, and I have the length that I wanted. So the leftover we had from cutting our pants, we're going to use it to make our crop top. So I'm still going to fold it into two, and then we have some longer edges. I'm going to just dress it up by trimming it away to give us an equal shape before we go into cutting. This is what it looks like after trimming the edges. So if there's something I want you to notice is the fact that this fabric has patterns. You can see some bold prints on this fabric, so I want it to be exactly on my chest, so that the first thing you see when you see me wearing this style is the fact that this pattern is so bold on my chest and at my back. Instead of just cutting it like that, just look for a way to make your patterns appear to look like such a design. And so I'm just going to separate it into two. This is what we have left to work with. So I separated them into two. One is going to go for the back and the other is going to go for the front. You can see how the pattern is. So I'm just going to be laying the two pieces on each other. One is going to be for the front and the other is going to be for the back. So I'm first of all going to be determining how long I want my crop top to be. So at this point, use your measurements. If you want it to be 16, 18, just use what you want to use. But since this is a crop top, you don't want to make it very long like a normal top. So make it a little bit short so that it sits on your pants. I think in that way it fits more, looking at the style that we're trying to make. So after cutting out the length that I wanted, I went out to take 4" for the neck depth, and for the neck width I'm using 3.5 for both the back and the front. So I'm not deepening any one more than the other. Usually once it comes to the neckline of a style, usually I like to deepen the back. But in the case of this style, I am using the back and the front. I'm using the same neckline, the same depth, the same width for the back and the front. So I went out and then I took my shoulder width. I'm using 8.5" for my shoulder width, and then for my armhole depth I'm using 9" for my armhole depth. So I'm going to still measure the same armhole width on this depth part this way, so that I have a straight line running from the shoulder to the neck depth, the armhole depth. Then I'm going to be taking my bust measurement. Ideally my bust measurement is 36, that is 9" on fold, but I added extra 2" for the allowance. You remember that this top has no darts, has no princess darts, it also has no breast cut, so, and it is not a fitted top. So for me I added 2" allowance. So if you want to add 3" allowance, that's okay, but I think 2" allowance is like what you should do. So if your bust is 34", you should consider making it 36" as the bust that you're going to be using for this crop top. I think a little bit free, not so wide, not so tight. On the armhole line, I'm going to be coming down by 1" for my shoulder slant. So I'm going to be cutting everything together. Then on the zip line, which is the one that is a little bit longer by your left, I'm going to be slanting it away by 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to slant it into the neck part of the back. So I'm going to be cutting everything together at once. So just follow me carefully. So this is for the sleeve. So this is what I have left after cutting the pant and the top. This is what I have left. So I'm just going to be making use of this to get a sleeve from this. So I'm going to be using a short sleeve. So I cut a piece of lining for each part of the top, for the front and then for the back. So I cut 2 pieces for the back because of the zip, so it separates them, so it makes it 2 kind of. So for the front, I'm just going to open it to the good side. I'm going to place my lining on the good side, adjust it how I want it. Then I'm just going to pin it all around, and then I'm going to sew on the neck. I'm going to close it underneath. I'm going to close it on the sides. Then I'm going to leave the armhole part open because that is where we're going to be turning the whole stitching that we've done. And then for the back as well, I am going to be splitting it into 2, and then I'm going to also layer the lining on it. Also for the second one, so I'm going to sew on this part, the neck. I'm going to close the zip part. I'm going to cover under. I'm going to sew the sides. Then I'm going to leave the armhole side open. The same thing here. Close here, close here, close here, leave here open. So I had gone ahead to sew and iron it together, the lining and the fabric. You can see how neatly ironed it is. You can also see the length. So I went ahead and I added the zipper to it because I was in a hurry. So I had to just do some parts of the camera because I know that we can do this part. So I had to do this part of the camera. The back and the front. So I'm just going to be laying them on each other. I'm going to be laying the back on the front or the front on the back, whichever one you want to go with is perfectly okay. So there's a way I like to close my shoulders when I am trying to join the back and the front of a style. I like to flip one side of the lining to the back. If you are flipping the lining for the front piece, make sure that when you go to the second shoulder, you are also using the lining for the front piece. And if you feel like you want to use the lining for the back piece to do the flipping, make sure that when you come to the second armhole as well, you are using the lining from the back. So because I use the lining from the front in the other shoulder, I'm going to be using the lining from the front again this way, like I did at the other side. I'm also going to do this way, flip it to the side. Make sure if you are using a lining for one side, if it is for the front, flip the same thing when you come to the second shoulder. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. I'm just going to pin it all the way and then head over to the sewing machine and just clean it up. So I'm going to sew here and sew for the other side. So this is what it is after sewing it. Look at the two shoulders. I'm just going to open it. You can see that it is neat. You don't see the part that was sewn. It is hidden inside. So this is what it looks like. So at this point, I'm just going to close the side. So what I did was at this point, I'm going to be closing it by 1 inch. Then underneath here, I'm going to be taking out 2 inches. I'll do the same thing here, 1 inch underneath 2 inch. So I'm going to be sewing from 1 inch into 2 inch on the two sides. Then afterwards, I can add my sleeves. So I succeeded in adding the sleeves. I'd done everything. I'd even worn it for the event that I used it for. You can see the pattern boldly on the chest. You can also see the pattern at the back divided by the zip. So this is what we've been able to come up with. So this is what it looks like on me, looking so beautiful. So guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you be trying this out? So drop me your comments. Don't forget to like my video, share, and if you're new to my channel, it will mean a lot to me if you hit the subscribe button, turn on the bell icon so you are notified every time I upload a new video. So bye for now.